What if I told you that the Boston Celtics, fresh off a dominant era, but suddenly dealing with a franchise-altering injury, might consider trading Kristaps Porzingis just 1 year after going all in on him? And what if that trade sent him to the Golden State Warriors? It sounds like something out of an NBA 2K fantasy rebuild, but it's not. This is real, and it's gaining traction fast. According to league insider Jake Weinbach, the Warriors could emerge as a realistic destination for Porzingis in a potential deal involving Jonathan Kuminga. On the surface, it seems like a star-for-upside swap, but look deeper, and the layers start to peel back in dramatic fashion. Let's start with this. Why would Boston even consider moving Porzingis in the first place? Well, here's where things get dark. There are growing concerns that Jason Tatum might not be ready for the entire 2025-26 season due to a rumored Achilles tear suffered during the playoffs. If that's true, and multiple sources have quietly echoed similar fears, Boston's window for a repeat title run doesn't just narrow, it might slam shut entirely. In that light, does it make sense to keep a 7.3 unicorn with a troubling injury history and a massive contract on a team that could be forced to hit pause? Maybe not. And that's where the Warriors enter the picture. Golden State, now arguably facing its last gasp in the Steph Curry era, is desperate. Not just playoff desperate, legacy desperate. The front office knows they've wasted 2 seasons trying to blend youth with experience. That experiment failed. Kuminga, while tantalizing at times, hasn't proven he can anchor the next chapter. And now, he's about to get expensive. So here's the brutal question no one in San Francisco wants to ask. Is Kuminga worth waiting on if Steph's clock is ticking fast? The answer might be no, and if Porzingis is on the table, the Warriors won't hesitate. But the trade isn't as straightforward as it seems. Porzingis comes with major red flags. He's still battling durability issues. Let's not forget that he missed crucial playoff games this very season. His contract is heavy, and he's not a natural fit in Golden State's motion-heavy offense unless the team dramatically reshapes its scheme around his presence. So why would the Warriors take the risk? Because desperation overrides logic. Because size, rim protection, and elite shooting in the front court are exactly what Golden State has lacked since Kevin Durant left. And because if Curry, Clay, and Draymond are riding into the sunset, they might as well go out swinging. For Boston, the trade opens up more than just cap flexibility. It offers strategic recalibration. Imagine pairing Kuminga's athleticism and two-way potential with the still young Jaylen Brown, plus the recent emergence of bench depth. That's a future-forward core with upside, and Boston's front office knows how to develop wings with raw tools. But here's where the curiosity gap widens. Would the Celtics dare to take this risk before confirming Tatum's health timeline? Would they preemptively shake the foundation? Or is there more to the Tatum injury than they're letting on? There's also a far more controversial layer to this. Could this be the Celtics punting on 2026 to double down on the loaded 2026 draft? Class? Insiders believe that class could produce multiple all-star talents, and Boston might prefer to retool now, rather than force a half-measure playoff run next year. And what about locker room politics? Porzingis was viewed as a locker room glue guy. Letting him go might send the wrong message. Or could it be the first step in a deeper dismantling? Could Al Horford finally retire? Could Derrick White be next in line for a trade? Could Boston secretly be prepping for the next Supermax extension? Not for Tatum or Brown, but for a star outside the organization. The possible ripple effects of a Porzingis-Kuminga trade go far beyond a simple swap. They would represent a philosophical fork in the road for both franchises. A recognition that time is running out for some and just beginning for others. And still, the most uncomfortable truth lingers. What if Porzingis simply isn't part of the Celtics' long-term vision? Even after his efficient season, his injury risk and style of play may not align with what Joe Mazzulla wants next. On the flip side, can Kuminga ever live up to his potential? Or is he another name on a long list of young talents who shine just enough to get overpaid and then disappear? This trade, if it happens, will ignite headlines. But maybe more importantly, It will expose the hard choices both franchises are now forced to make. Boston may be ready to hit reset. Golden State may be ready to burn it all down in pursuit of one last ring. Would the Celtics really trade Derrick White, the glue guy, the silent killer, the defensive maestro, for a handful of future picks and an uncertain prospect? At first glance, it sounds absurd, but not everything this offseason is about logic. Some moves are about timing, pressure, and desperation, and Boston might just be walking into a storm where those three forces collide. According to recent proposals from both Bleacher Report's Andy Bailey and FanSided's Michael Bohlin, the Detroit Pistons could be quietly plotting a blockbuster to steal White from Boston, sending back names like Jaden Ivey, Isaiah Stewart, Simone Fontecchio, and multiple first-round picks. Yes, multiple frameworks. Same target, same message. Derrick White is on the radar. But why now? Why him? Let's dig into the uncomfortable possibility that no one in Boston wants to say out loud. Derrick White might be the most expendable, beloved player on the roster. And that contradiction is exactly what makes him a perfect trade candidate. White is on a $118 million extension, a deal that looked like a steal just a season ago. But fast forward to today, and suddenly that contract is what Boston might need to get rid of to stay under the second tax apron, especially if Jason Tatum's supermax kicks in while the team still carries Jaylen Brown, Drew Holiday, and Kristaps Porzingis on massive deals. The numbers don't lie. Boston is drowning in long-term money. Something, or someone, has to give. But Derrick White? Really? Here's the case for Detroit, and why this might not be as crazy as it sounds. The Pistons aren't rebuilding anymore. Not after the mess of last season turned into a surprise playoff run. They have their star in Cade Cunningham. They have youth. They have cap space. What they don't have is a veteran with elite decision-making who can defend multiple positions and space the floor next to a lead ball handler. Derrick White is tailor-made for what Detroit needs. He's not just a combo guard, he's a championship guard. He hits shots when it matters. He makes the extra pass. He locks down opposing guards without making it look flashy. Put it this way, if Derrick White were a free agent this summer, the Pistons would throw a max deal at him without blinking. But this is where it gets murky for Boston. Jaden Ivey is 7 years younger. He's explosive. He's raw. He's inconsistent. He's intriguing. He represents that ever-alluring next window. The theoretical post-Tatum, post-Drew Celtics, loaded with athleticism and assets. Would Brad Stevens really trade White? The man who helped save Game 6 against Miami, who guarded Damian Lillard, who orchestrated the half-court offense without missing a beat, for a bet on the future. And here's where the curiosity gap widens. What if this trade isn't about White at all? What if it's about something much deeper, a silent but growing tension inside the Celtics front office about where this team is headed? Could White be the first domino? If the Celtics say yes to Detroit's offer, the message is clear. The priority isn't sentiment, it's survival. They'd be banking on potential, Ivy, flexibility, picks, and the idea that smart roster construction can replace heart and soul. But there's a massive risk. What if this trade kills the locker room culture? White is more than a stat line. He's the guy teammates trust with the ball in the biggest moments. You don't replace that with vertical leap or protected draft picks. And here's the wildest take nobody wants to admit. Is there a part of the Celtics front office that doesn't believe this core can win another title together? That believes 2024 was the high point, and that any attempt to run it back is just delaying the rebuild. That theory, as uncomfortable as it is, starts to make sense if they're entertaining calls for White. Then there's the Detroit angle. If Troy Weaver pulls this off, he instantly shifts Detroit from promising young squad to legitimate threat in the East. Cunningham, White, Harris, Duran is a real core. Add the right role players, and suddenly you have a team that could stun anyone in a 7-game series. But at what cost to Boston? Because make no mistake, losing Derrick White wouldn't just hurt, it would sting. It would fracture the fan base. It would raise questions about whether Brad Stevens has a long-term plan at all, or whether he's just playing financial Tetris while the Eastern Conference arms race accelerates. And what happens if Jaden Ivey doesn't pan out? What if those picks land in the mid-20s? What if Boston finds itself in 2027 with no White, no banners, and no plan? Sometimes, the most painful trades aren't the ones that look bad on paper. They're the ones that break something intangible. This deal, if it happens, could break Boston's soul. And yet, is it possible this is exactly what the Celtics need to do? That's the paradox. That's the gamble. That's why this offseason could rip the heart out of Boston's loyal base, or lay the groundwork for something no one saw coming. The only question now is, will Brad Stevens have the guts to pull the trigger?